on a volcano in Hokkaido. A few weeks ago, August 12, 2025, two foreign hikers called emergency services at 6:50 p.m. saying they were exhausted and unable to get down by themselves. So they were rescued. Now, it turns out these two guys were in their 30s from China, though residents of Japan, and they had left on this hike up a serious volcano, Mount Tokachidake in Hokkaido, and didn't bring any food and water with them. Now, these two hikers left at 4 p.m., which is a epically stupid time to leave. 2 hours and 50 minutes later, they're calling emergency services, unable to move. It's just defies reasoning. And then, of course, probably most of you would have heard about the guy who went up Mount Fuji twice in a week and had rescue teams come and rescue him both times. These sort of accidents involving foreign hikers in Japan are on the rise. Though, to be fair, actually, this year there's been a huge spike on hiking accidents in Japan in general, among Japanese hikers as well. But it looks particularly bad for us foreign hikers when we call in a rescue, especially in a way that was easily avoidable by just using common sense. So with all these people coming to experience the epic volcanoes and mountains of Japan, in some cases for the first time, I thought I should release a little video sharing some basic tips about what to bring and how to prepare. This video will be split into 3 parts. 1, the common sense bare essentials for planning your hike. 2, what you absolutely need to bring with you. And 3, the common sense that you need to follow while you're actually in the mountains in Japan hiking. Let's get into it. When you're planning your hike, the first important thing is the map. I use a Japanese app and website called Yamap, Y-A-M-A-P, but you could also use All Trails or any number of similar hiking apps and sites. And what you can do there is see a map which should give you an idea of the time it takes. There will be map time, and then also you should be able to look at posts of other hikers who've done the same route, which will let you know how many kilometers and what the elevation gain is, how much you're going up and how much you're going down. If you're not a runner or an experienced hiker, the numbers might not mean much to you, but from my experience guiding people, I think that if you're not a regular mountain hiker, you shouldn't attempt a hike cold right off the bat that has more than 800 or 900 meters of elevation gain in the hike. That's going to be kind of grueling for you. In terms of distance, that totally depends on the trail. Mountain trails are different than roads, of course, and so maybe you can comfortably hike a 10 or 14 kilometer hike in a day, but that all depends on how much elevation gain. I would say look at other people's posts when you're deciding what is a acceptable route for you to tackle. The second and equally important thing to do is check the weather on an actual mountain site. There are a number of these. I use a couple of different Japanese sites that are unfortunately just in Japanese, and so I would just recommend that you Google mountain weather. It should give you the wind speed and temperature and precipitation risk at various elevations. And then third for the preparation is, of course, your departure time. Those two guys on August 12th who left at 4 p.m., this is just ridiculous. You want to leave as early as possible for a number of reasons. One being, if you're hiking during the normal season, which you should, it's summer or fall, which means that it's going to be hot during the day. And so you want to leave early before the sun is beating down on you when you're at the lower, hotter parts of the hike. Most Japanese hikers actually leave before 7 a.m., if not much earlier than that. I can be a little bit lazy, and so if I'm getting up at home and leaving on a hike, I might start as late as 8 or even 8:30, but you really shouldn't start for much later than that in most cases. You want to, at the very least, plan to be down off the mountain 3 hours before sunset, because you might be slower than you thought, something could happen, and getting stuck out in the dark on a trail, even if you're bringing a headlamp, which you should bring, and I'll get into that later, it's just bad. You want to get down early. And plus, isn't it just more fun if you say get down at 4 p.m., you can then have a hot springs bath or take a shower at your hotel and then go get dinner, drinks, whatever you were planning to do afterwards with that amazing feeling of satisfaction that you just conquered a volcano. Okay, so what's the bare minimum of equipment that you should bring when you're hiking any mountain in Japan for a day hike? First, and arguably most important, is the footwear. You should really have nice hiking boots or at least trail running shoes. Your sneakers are not going to cut it. Any sort of normal running shoes that aren't trail running shoes specifically will just be shredded by the volcanic trails that you found in Japan. And also they're going to be a lot more slippery, bad traction. It's just a bad idea. If you're actually thinking that on your trip in Japan, you're going to do some proper hiking on any sort of mountain or volcano, get proper footwear. And maybe just have an extra pair of trail running shoes in your backpack. Also, you should really have some proper hiking socks. Just your normal cotton socks or whatever it is that you wear are not going to be good. And I think once you switch to wool socks, you won't want to go back anyways. I really recommend getting proper merino wool socks. And who knows, you might switch out all your socks for them because they're so great, both in terms of wicking moisture, preventing blisters, being more comfortable. Trust me, get real socks. Even if it's hot in the city, it can become very cold up in the mountains at 2,000 meters and more. In fact, even in July, people do die of hypothermia in the mountains of Japan from time to time when they were not properly prepared. And so I think it makes sense to always bring one of these sort of ultralight, if you have it, or just like a puffy down thing. This is an example of one. You could have a vest, or this is a full jacket. And as you can see, it's really lightweight and shrinks down really small. Just throw it in your bag. In case of emergency, it's essential. Just always have it with you just in case. You also probably want a fleece layer, like something like this that I have right here. This is just a fleece thing that you can also just have in your backpack, even if you don't think you need it. You probably want it. Of course, you'll also want some sort of a windbreaker or raincoat shell, even if no rain is forecast. That's going to help you keep your heat in. You'll also definitely want a hat. I used to make this mistake. In fact, if you look at my earlier videos, you'll see I used to hike without wearing a hat a lot. And while you can do it and you're not necessarily going to be miserable, you're going to sunburn the hell out of your scalp, and it's just not great for you. And also, having the sun beat down on your head is going to tire you out earlier. It does make a difference. Having a nice hat on with a brim is going to help you maintain energy as well as protect you from skin cancer and bad scalp sunburn. You also want sunglasses to protect your eyes, especially if it's anywhere there's going to be snow, like there often is in the mountains in the June and even early July season in Japan in a lot of areas. Definitely sunglasses. I also think that a headlamp is really essential gear. Obviously, you're not planning to be hiking out after dark, but even so, accidents do happen. It's just a good thing to have all around in case of emergencies in any case. Bring a headlamp. Also, it makes sense to pick up one of these little emergency, what do you call them, space blanket things, these little foil things that fold up into this tiny little package because it's going to, keep you safe from hypothermia if something happens, and it doesn't take up much room in your kit. I, of course, always bring like a full first aid kit, but maybe it's not necessary to have this whole thing, though if you have it, great. At the bare minimum, I'd recommend having some Band-Aids, some antibacterial spray, some taping to treat blisters or prevent them. And if you're hiking in Hokkaido, then you should definitely bring bear spray. In Honshu, it's not a bad idea to get it, but it's not as essential because the bears are less aggressive and less deadly. But I'll get into the bear issue in the next section of this video. In terms of food and water, you want to err on the side of too much rather than too little. Yeah, water is pretty heavy, but what can you do? Not many hikes have areas where you can get fresh water, though if you look on the maps, you might see some that do. In any case, those springs that you'll see referenced on maps occasionally are dry, and so better to opt on the side of having enough water. In terms of the amount of water, different routes will often have a recommendation. I'm generally carrying 3 liters for a full day hike, and I don't necessarily always go through that, but it's good to have. And instead of water, I'll also sometimes bring energy drinks like Aquarius or something, or even some of the brands that are specifically electrolyte and salt refilling. Though I also carry little salt tablets with me because you really need to watch out for not having enough electrolytes, salt and sugar in your system as well. In addition to liquids, of course, you want to have little snacks. This can be chocolate-covered almonds, something delicious like that, or they have these shio chaji, these little salt-charged tablets that you can get at the convenience store in the season. But you want little things that you can eat a little bit along the way to give yourself a little boost. And then also, of course, you're gonna want lunch if you're hiking a whole day, so sandwich, onigiri, things like that. Throw in some protein bars. As you know, it's better to have too much rather than too little. And of course, you're going to want to have a USB power bank battery because Generally, you're using your smartphone or GPS to navigate. You should also bring a paper map and a compass, but I have to admit, I rarely use those. I mean, 99% of the time, the map that I've got on my phone is enough. And then just in case there's some issue with battery power, yeah, bring this, but also bring a paper map, which you can download the paper map from one of those sites I mentioned earlier, print it out, and you should have a compass with you always anyways. So having that as your final backup is a good idea. Now, when you're on the trail itself, there's some common sense things. The first of which is maybe obvious to most, maybe not, but that's just stay on the trail. There's some people, I guess, who are tempted when they're looking at a map and they maybe see two trails are really close that they could just sort of cut across. But first of all, this is not allowed. It's a national park that most of these trails are in, and you shouldn't be going off trail. You can damage sensitive wildlife that takes decades to form, but is just easily smashed by our big boots going through there. There's a lot of delicate alpine flowers and things like that. And also, it's incredibly easy to get hurt or lost off trail, and there's a lot of hazards that you don't see. So yeah, stay on trail. Duh, right? One other thing that I know is common sense, but I've got to re-emphasize, is to be really careful of your garbage. Please, 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 please don't accidentally drop any wrappers or food. And even when you're eating, if you accidentally have parts of your sandwich or your onigiri falling onto the trail, you're gonna wanna pick those up, put them in a little trash bag and bring them with you, because that is how bears learn that humans are food. If they come and start associating our smell and our presence in places where we are with places where they can get easy, delicious food, that's when they start targeting humans more, and that's when people die, especially in Hokkaido. In fact, I was even told by a mountain guide in Hokkaido that if you so much as take a wild poop, if you defecate or go pee off trail in a mountain in Hokkaido, the bears will come and they'll smell that, and they'll actually eat our feces apparently. And from even smelling our pee, they can tell that we're eating good food and that we're food. And she was telling me that one of the reasons why it's important to follow the rules in Hokkaido, which has you only using designated toilets and also carrying these little portable toilet things, so that if you have to pee, you can sort of pee in a little chemical thing that fills it out and makes it into a gel and carry it back with you. And it may seem like a pain, but peeing in the wild can contribute to bears there starting to become more interested in eating people. And so you could literally be contributing to someone's death by going and just peeing off trail in Hokkaido. So that's something I actually just learned recently to keep in mind. Also on trail, it's considered good manners to greet other hikers in Japanese when you see them. Just a little, oh, konnichiwa, or domo, or something like that. You basically greet everyone. It's just good manners. And the other thing is that when you're going up, be aware that people who are climbing up have right of way. And so if you're going down the mountain and there's people coming up, you should move off and let the people coming up pass you. And then concerning wild animals that you might encounter, the only really dangerous animals in Japan that you'll find on the trails are, one, bears, obviously, and of course, and then second, snakes to some degree. So just don't step on snakes, be aware, and don't piss off snakes and you're fine. With regard to bears, I've done a whole video on this and I probably will do more, but the very compressed version is always be making noise when you're walking. Hike at a conversational pace, preferably not alone, and be hiking at a speed where you can be talking to your friends. And just talking to your friends as you go is going to be creating a blast radius of noise around you, so you're not going to meet bears. Then in addition to that, you're going to want to occasionally be clapping your hands or doing the bear call, woo, or loud things like that to create just this blast radius of noise so you don't meet bears. And on that outside chance that you do meet a bear, despite being, loud and calling and doing all those things, you want to try your best to be calm. Absolutely don't run away. Just stop and be like, ah, hey bear, and let it go away. Maybe slowly back away, but don't turn your back. Don't run. If you're with a group, you're probably fine. If you're in Hokkaido and it's a grizzly, well, still probably fine, because despite how scary they are, the actual number of incidences is quite low. With all that in mind, hiking in the mountains of Japan is Such a great way to spend your time here. The national parks here, especially the ones in northern Japan where I live, don't have that many people, so they're uncrowded, they're undiscovered. You're gonna get some of the most authentic views. I don't wanna make it sound like you shouldn't go there. Just take common sense precautions when you do. They are so much fun to go to, and I hope that a lot of you do decide to come hiking in Japan. Just come prepared. I'm sure that I missed a lot of things because this is sort of my version of the bare minimum. Maybe you've got a different one. Feel free to leave in the comments some other items that I missed that you might consider essentials, any other advice that you might have for hiking in Japan, or any horror stories you've seen of unprepared hikers hiking around you. That's always kind of fun to hear as well. So yeah, leave a comment, let me know what you thought, tell me a fun story. Of course, if you want to come up to the mountains and go with a guide who can tell you about the plant life and the animals, the history, the culture, and take a weight off your shoulders, and so you don't have to worry about navigation and things like that, you can always hit me up. Information in the description about how you can contact me and hire me as a guide. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the trails.